All right, hey, welcome back to another edition of the Shoe and Show. I am your host, Matt Priest. I am joined here with Sandi Mines and a special guest. Now, Sandi, before you introduce our special guest, we had a call with Chris a couple weeks ago as they became new members. Oofos became new members of FDRA, and Chris sent out a pair of shoes to us and to you, and the claims that are made around Oofos are really bold claims, right? And we've been in the shoe industry a long time. We've heard a lot of bold claims, and I'll be damned if I put those things on and I fell in love instantly. And then I went out and bought 2 more pairs for myself because I wanted to wear those outside. And so now I have a pair on as we speak right now, so I can wear them inside. They're that awesome. Who do we have on today to walk us through Oofos and what they're doing right now up in New England?
Okay, great. You did a little bit of a spoiler on that. It's okay. Today we have on Chris Peckham from Oofos, head of global operations, coming straight out of Boston. Chris?
Yep, just a little bit south of. So our headquarters is in Braintree, Mass, so 10 miles outside of the city. Welcome.
We're really thrilled to have you on board at FDRA. You know that I started out our conversation when I met you as I'm a super fan, and I was thrilled to receive a pair as well. I'd love to see what Matt's wearing if you want to hold them up, because now we're on video too. Oh,
very
those
nice.
Are cool.
Yep. Wear them all the time in the house.
Yep. Those are the Thermo Mules. They're a huge seller in Japan too. So they do pretty well here in the U.S.
Ichiwa.
Yeah. Awesome. Big seller in Japan.
Those are cool. I opted for kind of more of a recovery sandal, like an open toe, which is nice because it's 65 degrees here in New York today. But Chris, welcome to Shoe In. Welcome to FDRA. We're thrilled to have you on board. And we'd like to start off by asking a little bit about your shoe story, how you entered the footwear market. So take it away.
Sure. No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And, the relationship being a part of FDRA has been great out of the gate. And I expect it just to continue to, reap a whole bunch of benefits here for us. So, yeah, for me, personally, I kind of fell into operations. So I'm going to be the stereotypical dumb operations guy who's done nothing else in the past 27 years except worked in operations in one way, shape, or form. I had a wildly unsuccessful professional baseball career after I graduated college. I was in the Angels organization for 2 years, and it was a lot of fun. And people asked me, like, well, why'd you stop playing? I was like, well, I didn't stop playing. They just told me I couldn't come back.
So that'll do it.
Yeah. And I fell into I got an interview for a distribution manager with Lids, so the hat stores. And I just kind of fell into operations, and I just got bit by the bug, and I just never recovered. So whether it was distribution, transportation, global transportation, and then my last role with Reebok and Adidas ended up being down in Mexico, where it was more end-to-end supply chain. And that's what I'm doing here with Oofos as well. So, my team oversees everything from demand planning, supply planning, international transportation, trade compliance, the domestic operations, fulfillment, and the domestic transportation here. So it's been a lot of fun. Like I mentioned, I did about 10 years with Reebok and Adidas. I did 10 years out of the footwear industry, and then I boomeranged back. And it's been great to come back here. It's a lot of fun. No, like I was saying before, no shortage of things to do and topics to cover.
Now, when we had our first call, you said, you've been in the industry a long time, and Oofos is making these claims about how comfortable they are and how they help the athlete recover in particular, and how you have heard a lot of these claims being in the industry as long as you have, and it met your expectations. It exceeded your expectations. I had the same experience. Walk us through kind of what is the Oofos value proposition? Like what is unique about what you guys have brought to the table that others have not done or figured out yet?
Yeah. And I'm with you around the claim. So I was more than skeptical when I was first introduced to Oofos, and I was meeting with Steve Gallo, who was our former president. And he talked about the 37% more impact absorption and how it's going to relieve pressure from your knees, ankles, back, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of was like, okay, I was with Reebok. We released product that made some claims that maybe weren't, validated. And they gave me a pair of slides that I took home with me, and I put them on, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And really the best testimonial I can give is my dad, who turns 80 this year. He went through a bad bout of cancer a few years ago, and he's doing well, but he's got neuropathy everywhere from all the chemotherapy. So after I started, I brought him a pair of shoes, and I just said, "Hey, Dad, check these out." I didn't want to lead him down that path, and say, "Dad, these are going to make you feel better." So he's like, "Oh, is this a new company? Yeah, I'll check them out, do whatever." He calls me like 2 hours later, and the call was full of like expletives that I won't share here. But he's like, "What the heck are these?" Right? And I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
And I was like, "I know." I was like, "Dad, I didn't want to say that these were going to help." He's like, "I don't feel that same pressure and pain that I had in my ankles and my knees and all that." And I'm walking proof of it. I have used my body like a crash test dummy for most of my life. So I've got a terrible back, and these don't make my life perfect, but they make it awfully, awfully more tolerable. So yeah, really the secret sauce for us is going to be in the chemical composition that's in the footbed for all of our product, whether it's an open-toed sandal or slide, whether it's a closed-toe lace or non-laced product. So what you see from some of the other competitors out there is just your standard injection mold EVA foam, right? And what we have here at Oofos is just much different. We call it Oofoam. It's proprietary. It's got a completely different chemical composition to it. And that's what differentiates us from all of the competition. And listen, we love the fact that Hoka's got a branded recovery slide. Nike's getting into it. Bombas now has some slides out there as well. Oka has another product that they're branding as recovery. This is great. More competition comes in, high tides raise all boats. And we feel like the recovery category, which is something that Oofos has pioneered, and it's not often, you folks know, it's not often that a new category gets introduced into footwear. And Oofos did that. So we want more people to come in here because we just feel we have such a significant competitive advantage. And as you guys can attest, our best ambassadors are our customers. It's like once you get this product on your feet, it makes such a tangible difference. People have no problem, investing and spending the money to get the sandal slides or closed toe because it does make such a huge difference.
Yeah, that's great. And you're right. This category is really exploding. I've noticed a lot of newcomers to this category, but you guys have definitely led the charge on it. I saw it back, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, maybe at the Outdoor Retailer show.
Yep.
When I was walking by the booth, it was packed. I mean, there were tons of people. And I want to say that most of those people might have been, super runners, like really passionate runners. And now definitely you've opened the door to, closed toe. I don't know if you started out with that open toe. Is that what you started out with, the open toe slide and sandal? And that's where it began, but it's really grown. I'd love to hear about, where it is now and where you'd like it to go in the next, 2 or 3 years, because during COVID, everyone was outside and running and, focusing on, their health and well-being personally. And I think that it was a good time for you guys to be really kind of spot on in the center of the market, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit it right on the head. So you don't train in Oofos, you recover in Oofos. So for any of these crazy people that take it upon themselves to voluntarily go and run marathons and 10Ks and all that stuff, you're not going to wear your Oofos there. You're going to wear it afterwards, right? But even for, somebody who's just a little bit on the sidelines like I am, like I'll get in the weight room and I'll do, my exercise and stuff. It still makes a huge, huge difference. And yes, it started off as just sandals and slides. But now more of our focus is going to be around that closed toe product. And we're getting into different wearing occasions, so to speak. So you had your open toe sandal slides, which is fine for wearing around the house, or if you're going to be out and about shopping, doing something like that in warmer weather. And now we've got a little bit more of a fashion play that's coming into place. We'll be launching a product later this fall that's got a super high-end quality leather upper. So something that you can wear in a business casual environment, things like that. So that's really where the focus is going. And the company has done a great job of bringing in some high quality talent. So Dan Hobson is our head of design and merchandising. He's been here for a little bit over 2 years, and you guys know the life cycle, right? From concept to shelf, you're almost talking about 2 years.
Yeah.
So we've got a great pipeline of product. Tommy Piacentini is our head of product development. So we were really relying on our factory partners to handle the development. Now that he's been on board for almost 2 years as well, or around 2 years, he's done a great job of making sure that we're pushing out some super high quality product. We just recently hired a new chief marketing officer, Liz White. She's fantastic. So she's going to be getting her fingerprints all over everything, whether it's our messaging to our direct to consumer business or the partnerships that we have with our retail partners out in the field. So a lot of good stuff happening here.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. So is it the Umai Zens? Is that how you say it? That's one of the pair that you sent me, and I wore them in the house for a long time. But I did, to your point, they weren't made. They're not designed. They're closed toe. They're slip-ons. They're super stylish. They look futuristic, and I wanted to wear them out. So that's why I had to pick up these other pairs. It was a great. You did your job well, Chris, by like giving me that quick hit, that sample hit as my footwear dealer, and I had to go back and buy the full on thing. So walk us through kind of the namesake. Like, what does Oofos mean? What's the design behind the name, and how you attach this technology, this foam that you talk to each of these different silhouettes and functions? Walk us through the thinking behind that.
Yeah. So actually, interesting story. So the name Oofos, and it kind of depends on which one of the founders you ask. But it came from the whole genesis of Oofos was Lou Panaccione is our CEO, wonderful guy. He's in the office today. And he's a longtime footwear guy, right? So he spent a long time at Nike, Reebok, et cetera, et cetera. And him and Paul Brown and Juan Diaz and another guy, Steve Liggett, they were doing some consulting. So they had started up this consulting business, and they were advising brands like Adidas and Nike, et cetera, et cetera. They had a long-standing relationship with our current manufacturing partner, who, interestingly enough, is a chemist. And he just created this insole, and he sent it over to Lou. So Lou got a hold of it, put it in his shoes. They're like, wow, this feels different. This feels really, really good. So Juan, who is our head of design, he's one of our founders who oversees design. They mocked up a sandal for them to create. And the initial play was, maybe we just license this out, right? Take the 13% royalty and everybody gets really rich and all that. But as they were doing more fit and wear testing, Lou got this idea like, hey, there's a company here that we could start. And the Oofos piece came from, there was a very typical reaction when people would put on Oofos, and their first reaction would be like, oof. Which kind of leaned into the whole Oofos name, which is pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's like how it all kind of started. And here we are. I mean, I think Oofos was incorporated 13 years ago. So we've come a long way in a relatively short period of time. But we look at the recovery space as being a multi-billion-dollar market just here in the U.S., and it's a big world out there too. About 15% of our revenue is in the international space. We're in 28 or 29 different countries now. So there's no shortage of opportunity out there.
So tell us a little bit about your distribution levels and where you're looking to go from a retail perspective. I know you have a big following. You guys are really strong on D2C, and that's where I found most of your product and a lot of your launches. Right?
Yep.
It's been pretty exciting, but I know that you're looking to grow in the next level. And we talked a little bit about that when you were joining FDRA. So,
yeah, definitely. So, and there's certainly been a little bit of a shift since I've been here, which is coming up on 3.5 years. When I first started, it was adamant that, hey, Chris, we are a D2C company. That's what we're going to focus. And not that we've lost focus on there, but I don't want to say that our wholesale channel was an afterthought, because that's not doing it the right service, but it was definitely not the priority, right? And now there's just been a shift. We see plenty of opportunity out there at wholesale, and even with our business on Amazon. Amazon, we were previously using as almost like, our dated, distressed inventory, almost like an outlet channel. We've since focused more attention there, and it's a little bit of a slippery slope, right? I mean, we're not going to be able to promise the next day, 2-day delivery on all orders like Amazon can. And you got to be careful because you don't want to train your consumers to go to Amazon to buy stuff, right? And not go to Oofos.com. So we did a nice job of reallocating some internal assets, making sure that the offering to Amazon was good. We expanded it quite a bit, and we're seeing that channel develop significantly. But wholesale is really the big immediate opportunity for growth. We're in all the channels. We're in the family channels, so your DSWs, your Famous Footwears, your Run Specialty. That's going to be the bread and butter right there. Because to your point earlier, Sandy, Oofos is like a perfect complementary product, right? So somebody comes in and they spend a significant amount of money on a higher price, really technical running shoe. And this is like perfect, right? Train in these, recover in these. So it makes a lot of sense. And then, the field and independent accounts make up a significant portion as well. And then, recently we were in a 10-door test with Dick's Sporting Goods, and now that relationship has expanded to 75 doors with the hope that, hey, let's get in all 800, So again, a lot of opportunity, but definitely a little bit more of a focus on the wholesale side. And again, not that we're losing focus on anything else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And Dick's Sporting Goods just joined FDRA as well. So the party's getting started for us. Awesome. Let me ask you this. This is the buzzkill segment of our conversation. I don't really want to go down this road, and you can just say no comment, but like, how are you navigating the turbulent waters? You're an ops guy, right? So
yeah,
the operations folks are always like, you don't want to see them walking down the hall because they're usually going to come bring bad news. Something's delayed, have a bigger tariff hit or something. But now you're so invaluable to the organization because everything's so chaotic. Walk us through. We don't have to do a deep dive into the specifics, but walk us through your strategy in the chaos to focus, to keep that focus on growth while navigating these headwinds that are stronger than I've seen them in the 16 years I've been in this job.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And I am definitely the Grim Reaper. So anytime I'm in the room, I'm typically not saying, hey, we got a 99%, on time in full rate, which actually is the case. But more often than not, I'm bring to the table some type of news like this. And yeah, it's definitely challenging. I use the analogy, trying to figure out what this administration is going to do next is almost like trying to drink coffee with a fork. It's really, really difficult to do it. It's very frustrating. And you just don't know what's going to happen, right? So we know about the tariffs with China. The vast majority of our production is coming out of Vietnam. But as everybody's aware, third largest trade deficit there. We do a little bit of production in Indonesia. We could pivot in that way, but that's going to take some time to ramp up. There's always quality concerns, so it's not just a volume question. So we have some contingency plans. It's just none of them are really good. And some of the feedback that you've been able to provide, Matt, about some of the meetings with the Vietnamese trade ministries seem encouraging. But I guess we'll see on, quote, Liberation Day on, April 2nd, what ends up happening next. So yeah, we've modeled out some scenarios. I mean, even everything with the potential tax or the potential penalties on Chinese-made vessels calling U.S. ports. We've tried to model that out. And the big thing, and everybody knows it, but I don't know if we're all saying it out loud enough, is if, some of these carriers end up reducing the amount of ports they call, the congestion that's going to come with that is just going to far outweigh the $800 to $1,000 that you might be paying, per box based on the penalties.
Yeah.
So it's, there's an ugly elephant in the room, for sure. So yeah, it's definitely trying times. We got a board meeting this week, and tariffs and all the different sort of doomsday scenarios out there. That's going to be top of mind and a focus, at that meeting.
Yeah, I can imagine. There are multiple 800-pound gorillas, elephants, whatever, in the room. And just as a reminder to those who are watching or listening who are FDRA members, we're doing constant private consultation. We do these corporate gatherings every week, but we're doing private consultations with our members on what your unique sourcing profile is, and then how we can help you strategize. To Chris's point, there's no good options, but we can explore each of the options that are available. And we can do that. We can even provide slides and macroeconomic data that's helpful for board meetings and the like. So please feel free to reach out to us. I've got one last question on my end, and it's over to the baseball, because I grew up playing baseball too. I didn't make it to the pros. I didn't even make it out of high school. But Chris, you're a Boston guy. Assume you're a Red Sox guy, but what was it like to be in the Angels organization? Assuming you're a Red Sox guy, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And I assume you kind of reverted back to your fandom once your career ended.
Yeah, I mean, we've been lucky here in New England, right, across all sports. And I turned 50 this year, so I grew up. My formative years of falling in love with baseball happened in the early 80s, right? And so we had the 86 Sox and all that stuff. And we went through a period of some really bad teams as well. So I consider myself just a true baseball fan. And yeah, I mean, I'm obviously a Sox fan as well.
Yeah.
But it wasn't very difficult putting on that Angels costume to play pro ball. It was an awful lot of fun.
I'm sure.
And like I said, I kind of considered myself like Serrano from Major League. The straight ball I could hit very much, but that curveball, gave me a few fits, which is why that career only lasted 2 seasons. But it was an awful lot of fun.
Yeah, that is awesome. I grew up I'm not quite 50. I'm really close to it, but I remember Jim Rice and obviously Bill Buckner, and I just remember that whole squad. Even if they weren't good, there were some really good players on that team. But then you got Boston's crushed it ever since. I'm a DC guy, so I'm like salivating the opportunity to win multiple championships in every single sport that you guys set out to accomplish. So kudos.
Yeah, and
Sandy loves Boston too, so I'm surrounded by Boston people.
Yeah, it's funny too. John McNamara was the manager of the Red Sox, in '86 in that World Series against the Mets, where Buckner the ball, he made the error, whatever that led to Game 7. And John was actually a roving catching instructor with the Angels while I was there. So I got a chance to meet him, sit down and talk to him. In fact, he had some very colorful language describing
like your dad.
A reporter here in Boston, Dan Shaughnessy, who John didn't particularly care for. So him and I kind of hit it off. And he was a great guy. And he gave, a real peek on the inside of what was really happening in the clubhouse, just with the team and all this stuff. So it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience.
That was awesome. Well, Chris, I can't thank you enough for coming on Shoe In. Sandy, anything else you got on your end before we close out?
No, thank you. It was great talking to you, Chris.
Yeah, awesome. No, this has been great. Thank you both very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, our pleasure. So, folks, this has been another exciting edition of the Shoe In Show. Go to shoeinshow.com for all of our episodes, or kicksovercoffee.com to watch them live and in person. You can see the show and tell. You can see all the fun that we're having in real time. Heck, if you want to buy this hoodie, you can go to FDRA.org and buy it. If you want to lobby for kicks, we're hawking everything we've got. So make sure you check it out. In the meantime, come back next week for another exciting edition. Until then, Shoe In Show is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.